Okay, we're here at the laundromat, and when I went in, I just remembered that I was told, I could get a free wash on the next time I show up. So I got a free wash and dry today. Isn't that great? Oh my gosh, it's absolutely fantastic. Um, so it takes about 25 minutes for the wash to complete. Um, and I'm doing everything in my power not to go to Brahms. I'm doing everything in my power not to go to Brahms. So, but I am happy. I am, um, like I said, a little sore. Got a blister in the middle of my palm from holding the chainsaw. Uh, but I'll live. I will live. Live, live, live. um, I could use this time to walk around the parking lot, but I don't know if I want to walk around the parking lot. I'll be afraid that people will be talking about my body, right? Because I'm overweight. I'm afraid to even go to the gym now. I mean, shit, they're chasing women out of the gym because of body shaming us. Uh, right? Body shaming. This is that. What's wrong with y'all? You know, y'all are not like, oh, well, you can't dress, you don't know how to dress appropriately. Okay, if you have a different shaped body, if you have a body that's not the average, what they deem to be average shape, you know, the average clothes is just not going to hit you. It's not going to hit you in the same way. Yeah, you can fit it. Like this shirt, for instance. This shirt was actually probably made for a woman that's 5 feet, right? I'm 5'9". I'm 5'9", okay? I can get in it, right? And it was a cheap $5 shirt. However, it's not hitting me right. It's just not, right? It should really hit me differently, right? Anyway, and the same goes for the pants, right? It doesn't hit me right because, shorter women, if they put on weight, they're going to be wider, but not necessarily my body type. Okay? And here's another thing, right? Um, when you're taller than average, like you're 5 feet and above, if you're 5'7" and above, you know, normally those women are not carrying what you would call the pear shape. For some reason, you could be overweight, but if you're pear shaped, for some they say it's acceptable. It's acceptable. I guess it's that waist to hip ratio thing that they keep talking about. But because I've seen 300-pound women, get a lot of attention just because their hips are wider than their waist, right? They could have a 36-inch waist and a 56 hip, right? And they'll be like just as proud. Um, but, you know, when you're a woman who has a broad shoulders, I have very broad shoulders. I've already said, you know, the width of my back is 16 inches. Okay? And I don't have wide hips. No, I don't. Now when I was younger and I had, some hormones, it did fill out, a little bit, right? But it didn't fill out a lot. I had the thighs and, the hips and the booty. But then as you get older, and your hormone decreases, you start losing, those hormones that bring about the thighs and the hips and the butt. I don't know why, but it's just the way it is. Just like when we are, 10 years old and the hormones start kicking in, what happens? We start growing breastises. We start growing breastises and hips, slowly and gradually, And some people, they have a lot of hormones. Right? And they don't even understand why they are growing these hips and breasts, Although there was a time that it was more acceptable. There was a time that it was more acceptable to grow breasts as a woman. That's changed, because we have these bisexual guys and these guys that like to, I guess hit it from the back, which I think is nasty. And is really a gay man, in disguise. It won't happen to me, but they're starting to make it seem like, having a large backside is beautiful, right? And it's like they'll never have to look at your face, right? And that was the main thing that I was noticing. These people, they didn't look at her face on the statue. All they wanted to say was she has a gut. That's what they wanted to say. Now, if she would have came out there pregnant, maybe they would have thought something. But this is what goes on in our country, right? We have people that are suffering emotionally and mentally, having all of this cortisol, right? And I know they'll say, well, no, it could be old age. Well, believe me, old age people, they are stressed out, right? It's very stressful waking up every day and seeing the gray hairs come in, the wrinkles come in, the energy, decrease. You can't just do the things that you used to do, and, it's very stressful. And don't be premenopausal. Oh my God. You don't think that's stressful? It's very stressful. Very. And if you are already in menopause state, whether it's because of your hysterectomy or whether it's just because, it's your time, then, hey, it's stressful. It's stressful. But why isn't that understandable when it comes to women? I know why. It's because they don't care. They don't listen to women. Women can tell you until they're blue in the face, right? I am stressed. And they're like, you'll get over it. Women can tell you till they're blue in the face, wow, my period is erratic and I'm bleeding, all the time, at least spotting. And they're like, ugh. Go to the doctor, find out what that is. The doctor says, you're going through menopause, and it's like, that's it? That's it? Yeah, that's all. Right? But what about my emotions? Right? Why am I going up and down in my emotions? They're like, yeah, that's common. Okay. Anyway, nobody cares about the women's feelings. Nobody cares about the women's developmental patterns. Nobody cares. And even if they have the cognition of what's going on with her, it's not even accompanied with the compassion and the sympathy and the empathy. It's just not. Okay. But if every 50-year-old woman would tell you how much stress it is to be a 50-year-old woman, right? And the way that people treat you once you hit 50, well, once they know you're older. Some people, they could be in their 40s, and if they look like they're old, they're already avoided, right? They're already dismissed. Like, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be at home with your husband? Can't your husband keep your ass in the house where we don't have to look at your old ass? That's the attitude that women are feeling when they're out here in the world and they're older. Really. They don't talk about it because it's not said. It's felt. That's that emotional power I be talking about. When you feeling something and it's not your energy, that's emotional power being thrown at you. Okay. So, I don't really want to get into all of the reasons why a woman could be faced with hysterectomy. It could be because, she was handling something that was too big, like, a man with a tripod. Or, the guy was just totally insensitive about, banging her and beating it up. She get those fibroids, and fibroids turn into something, damaging her organs, and they love, like grown-ass men love to bang a girl. I've said it before. The word girl should never come out of a man's mouth in terms of a relationship. She should either be a lady or a woman. A lady is just like a pre-woman stage of a female woman. Okay? That's all it is. But when I sit up there and I see like 20-something-year-old guys talking about girl, I'm like, please leave the girls alone. Let them find out who they are. Stop trying to beat up their organs before they're even fully developed, and this woman won't have to worry about having fibroids and hysterectomies at a young age. Do they care? Obviously not. Because there are men all over the world seeking out young girls. The younger, the better. And then they'll be like, oh, well, if she's under 10 years old, that's too young. 10? But you want to bang a girl that hasn't even developed hips, breasts? Let me stop. I said I wasn't going to talk about it, and I talked about it. I'm talking about it, but I'll stop. Calm down, Cherie. Calm down. It's just appalling to me. But then they want to pretend like they're such good men. Oh, they're such good men. Here's one of the most appalling things that I heard today. This guy was talking about men You need to go out there and just stay single, right? And my thought is, does single mean that you're not going to have sex with women? Then that would be great. And then later on in his conversation, he was like, you can just, if you could just relieve yourself with prostitutes. And I'm like, you guys be abducting women all the time, turning them out, and then leaving them believing that that's the only future that they have left for themselves, is the life of a prostitute. Men create prostitutes. If men wasn't fucking prostitutes or turning young girls into prostitutes, there would be no prostitutes. Ain't no other woman out here buying another woman. No, not really. Shit, women won't even buy other men. Now, they can get scammed by men who are promising, relationships. They get scammed by men all the time. But buying a man, no. Most of them, they're not even willing to buy a man. They're not. That's why the Chippendales never took off and got money. They was broke. The Chippendales was fucking broke. Anyway, I don't know why, this whole conversation got real sexual, but it did. And it is what it is. Right? So, my thought is they want a woman to be very low maintenance, right? She don't need to eat that much. If she's 120 pounds and she stays that weight, she's only going to be eating, 1,600 calories a day, 2,000 max, right? So, however, if she's a vegetarian and want the best of foods, then, they have a challenge on their hands, right? Because organic food costs higher than any processed food out there. And that's another thing. Every time they talk about who are the fattest racial groups, right? And it's lower economical people who can't afford to have healthy, fibrous foods. Their foods are highly processed, and they end up buying foods that are high in starches and carbs, because those are the affordable foods. Have you not seen the price of meat today? Meat today is like $5 a pound and up. So you have these people who will say, well, what about our grandmothers? What about our grandmothers? Well, our grandmothers somehow or another was always able to plant greens somewhere. I don't know where they was planting the greens. Maybe it was on the plantation farm that they worked on. That they got a portion of the greens, and they was able to get some cornbread and some beans, and that was it. They couldn't afford meat. That's why so many people was eating bacon. So, and as a result, it had affected their, they may not have been fat, but it affected their blood pressure, And it also affected, their insulin. That's why so many of the minorities, who have to, have that type of diet, suffer from high blood pressure and diabetes. Because beans and starches are a main staple of every meal that they eat. And that's just a fact. That's just the facts. I'm not lying. And that's what's going on right now. And I had to correct my eating because I have IBS, right? I have glucose intolerance, right? I mean, wow. And I started trying to figure out, well, what food is gluten, right? And I thought it was just bread. But it's more than bread. It's pasta. Okay? It's, yeah. So, but when we prepare our meals, it's like every meal either has potatoes or rice or pasta or bread. Otherwise, I guess we might feel hungry. And then the only good starch are beans. But beans is very high in carbs. Nuts is very high in carbs and calories. Both of them high in carbs and calories. And they don't linger like protein does. Protein, it can be high in calories, but it burns off at a slower pace than starches and carbs, right? They'll hit your bloodstream, very fast, because it's like they break down into sugar, like boop, immediately. So that's one of the reasons why, the people with, malnutrition and obesity, because when you've been eating improperly for so long, there are breakdowns in your body, right? The insulin, yeah, your body just starts to break down. So, but here was the thing that I heard most of all. What I heard most of all was black men attacking this statue. Then the older black men, they didn't necessarily attack the statue. They were like, yeah, that's Big Mama, right? And of course, all of our minds went to like Medea. Once you say Big Mama, our minds will go to our grandmothers or Medea or something like that, and that's to help us to calm the fuck down. It was like it took the older men to call this woman Big Mama to calm to calm the black people down because they thought that, they were making fun of black women by putting that statue out there. And I was like, oh my God, it was disgusting. It was just disgusting. Oh, that woman, she's a a representation of the black woman by putting her in Times Square. And it's like, no, it's just a statue. And this woman exists in everyone's family. That body type, that woman with all of that cortisol around her stomach, for sure, she definitely feels distress economically, socially, maybe in her personal relationships. Yes, this woman is been mistreated for years, centuries. And God knows, if she had a beautiful body at one time, the SA from family members to just walking down the street is a perilous journey for her, right? Because even if you want to tell her, well, you can go to the gym, and if the men chase you out of the gym because you don't have gym etiquette, or you don't look like the beautiful, fit weightlifter that they want to have in the gym with them, you can't walk down the street. You can't. And it don't even matter what size you are when you're walking down the street. These men are like animals. Animals. If you got low self-esteem, they like that. They love to be able to tell you what you should like and what you don't like. And how you should be grateful he's giving you attention. But then another thing that I was looking at was how we're not being informed. Like, we have all of Americans, up in the uproar talking about, our economy is so bad, right? I did not know just how bad it was in other countries. I'm not a traveler, right? But last night, my algorithm brought up China, right? China is supposed to have been the most populated country in the world, right? But their economy was so bad that, they were declaring the existence of dead people. They never reported them dead. They were multiplying the people, the size of their family, just so that they could have more room to live in, because it's all controlled, right? And they never even told us that 420 million Chinese were taken out by COVID. Now, I think we had like 200,000 taken out with COVID that we know of. I'll have to check the numbers if I just want to, have it for my data. But let me find out. But I mean, so China's own people was lying about the number of people in their families so that they could get allocation for larger living areas. And they were even building based off of those numbers. And they were showing how all of these villages and these new building structures and stuff were empty. And it was, I mean, I was just, wow. I was wowed, right? Then this lady in Russia, she was showing how the streets was empty, how bad, the living standards was there. And this is their summertime, mind you. Okay, this is their summertime. It's summertime in the northern hemisphere. And all of them was talking about how normally people would be out and about and buying things. And and she was just letting us know, no, it's not like that in Russia. I was like, thank you for letting us know. Because we're sitting up here, crucifying our leaders as if this wasn't a global problem. And they're trying to recreate a new economy, but there's a lot of resistance. And, they have a lot of people who are still thieves, hackers, embezzlers, etc., 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 which makes it hard to implement something like overnight. Let me find out. How many Americans died of COVID? Okay, so as of May 15th, 2024, there was like 1.1 million deaths related to COVID in the United States. 1 million. Over 1 million. All right. So it was confirmed that we are the 17th highest in the world. So out of I think it said like, how many countries do we have in the world? We have 195 countries in the world. We were placed 17th place when it came to confirmed COVID deaths. Who was in first place of COVID deaths? China. China was first place in terms of COVID deaths. That's why they got 420 million. Hold on. I think my clothes are ready to put in the dryer. So the Tide place has free drying today. I don't know if it's in observance of Mother's Day, but yeah, they have free dry sessions today. So yeah. the COVID thing, and we're still traumatized by it because we're still getting these weird, allergies and flu symptoms that lasting for for weeks, months, and I can't even I cannot uh tell you if I had experienced COVID when I had the flu. Could have been. I didn't go and get a test because it wouldn't have made any difference. It just wouldn't have. So yeah, this is what it is, and the the way things were, it wasn't good, It just wasn't. I mean, you don't want to go so bad as to get maybe like, you know, Amazon or AT&T, you know, who are trying to get, uh, the most out of people, even though, uh, yeah, Amazon, you know, no, they don't really, compensate, for the type of hard work that, they want you to put out. And AT&T used to compensate people for the hard work that they wanted you to put out, but I think they changed that. I think they changed that because the last time I had looked, you know, I was shocked and appalled when AT&T was starting people out at like $12 and $14 an hour. I was like, what the hell? But yeah, this is the world that we live in. I don't know who keeps trying to get my attention. They keep calling my phone. But I don't recognize the number. So I don't know why they want to call my phone, and I don't know them. So yeah, this is the world that we live in. I got I think I only gotta wait like 10 minutes. If I wait 10 minutes to dry my clothes, they'll be dry. And I put a whole load and separate it out into two different dryers so that they would dry quicker. Then after I get my clothes, then I'm gonna go pick up my groceries at Kroger's. So yeah, it's my birthday month. Okay? Yes. I'm gonna be 64 years old. I made it! Right? I made it. I made it this far. I'm telling you, when I was younger, I didn't think I was gonna live to 25. I really didn't even want to live to 25, honestly, because I could see the bullshit back then. I really could. I could see the bullshit back then. And I was like, this is bullshit. I don't want to be here. And you best believe, if they had a suicide center back then, Or if they hadn't outlawed suicide, because there are countries that, legalize suicide. They also have assisted suicide in other countries, where say you got a illness, a debilitating illness, that they will assist you, you know, rather than have, your family go broke, you know, keeping you alive, when you're terminal, right? And our country loves to do that. Our country loves to try to get every last little juice of money that you got out of you. That's why I don't even like going to the doctor. It's just like, wow. I remember when I went to therapy, right? And I told him, I said, this is my problem right here. This is my problem. This is my problem. This is my problem. And this is my problem. And I have a bad attitude problem about my problems. Can you tell me how long this is going to take? And they were like, no. But let's do a couple of sessions and see how far, so they can get a better idea. And I was like, sure, no problem, no problem, because at least I'd be able to sit there and vent to somebody for 45 minutes. They don't even do a full hour. They charge you a full hour, but your session is 45 minutes. Sometimes 30 minutes. So anyway, our population is still suffering from post-traumatic trauma, PTS and CPS, whatever, complex trauma, yeah. And you okay? What else? I seen this one video where this guy had a little girl with him and he was going camping. He said he was taking her in a camping truck. And I was just appalled. I was appalled. I was like, how are you taking this young girl camping with you? Right? She looked like she was 4 or 3 years old. Right? Because, little girls shouldn't be going into like the men's bathroom. Even men know the men's bathroom is nasty. They pee all over the place, shit, whatever, all over the place. Just it's and then he can't let her go into the bathroom by herself. She doesn't know that she's supposed to wrap the toilet seat up, and she definitely wasn't, smart enough or tall enough, not to sit on the seat. It just, my mind was like, what the heck are they doing? What is he doing? And I can't even imagine, thinking that it's okay to be shitting and pissing in your pants at 4 years old. The accidents happen, in the middle of the night when you're sleeping, stuff like that, yeah. But, just to make it like a common practice that this is the way, you're going to go to the bathroom, because, wow. But anyway, he said that, he was traveling, his wife was flying, and that they'll be meeting up at her parents' house, whatever. That was a relief. That was a relief, but somewhere in there he made me feel like he was doing this as a single parent, traveling with, his young, like I said, she had to be 3 or 4 in a camper. And, wow. And it wasn't like a pop-up camper van where you have to sink and, and you can, it wasn't like that. Oh, I keep getting phone calls from this number. I don't know who it is, but whoever it is, they need to stop calling my phone. I don't recognize your number. Anyway, it's been 10 minutes. I'm going to go get my clothes. Okay. Now to go and pick up my groceries and then head on back to the house. And I feel pretty good for a person who had woke up late today. Ooh, I woke up late. Shoot, it was almost 2 o'clock when I woke up. Another thing to tell you just how weird people are. I don't know who it was who crossed my channel, right? But they be trying to ask me if I'm like open to, I don't know, based off of just the fact that I post on social media. And I think that's weird. I think that's weird as F, right? That people like build up, this whole fantasy, about somebody they don't even know online. And yet people do it all the time. So trying to skedaddle my way over here to Kroger's. I'm wondering if they give me a notification that it's ready. They didn't give me a notification the way that like Tom Thumbs or Albertsons, they'll send you a notification and let you know that they have gotten your order ready. And even if it's before time, you can pick it up early if you want. I didn't get this notification from Kroger. So yeah. It's so weird. We got island weather, man. We got island weather, right? It's like we'll have a little bit of sunshine and then the clouds roll in. A little bit of sunshine and then the clouds roll in. You don't know if it's going to rain, hail. And that's another thing, too. Everybody's been getting this weird weather of flooding and hail. It's been crazy. I mean, it even occurred not in just China, but it even occurred in Spain and Portugal. They also had hail, and Paris. Yes. I didn't see if there was any reports of that kind of weather in the UK. But yeah, it's been weird. And some of those people had so much bad weather. Oh, who was that? There was one country that had so much bad weather that they had what looked like icebergs floating down the street. Like icebergs floating down the street? Yep, icebergs. So we have all of these strange phenomenons, or it's just new to us, going on, and it's weird. Now, this $75 worth of groceries, I'll be surprised if it's more than 4 bags. 4 plastic bags. Not even full to the rim. But I decided to go ahead and get me some fresh fruits, yogurt and eggs, and and some fresh onions, cucumbers. I don't get too much of that often, but it's nice to have. And even when I buy them, I usually have to, chop it up and freeze it because, I don't use them up fast enough, and I don't want them to just spoil on me. Stalls that you just pull up into and then tell them you're here, and then they bring it out to you. That's what I'm hoping for. QR code. Move back, move back, move back. Come on, move back, move back. Okay, so the QR code takes you straight to the app. So I've checked in, gave them my stall number. I'll be honest. The first time that I made my order out, I had snacks. Yes, I did. And then I had to force myself to go back through and say no. No. Right? Because we really want to lose weight and stay healthy. You know, I'm hoping that by the time, I have to go into assisted living, that, they don't have to, call in for help just to give me a bath or, lift me up out of the bed and stuff like that, Here he comes. Okay, to my surprise, I got 5 bags. I was thinking it was going to be about 4 bags. I really was. But I got me about 5 bags. I tried to be thrifty. I did. And I tried to keep my food healthy. Okay. So now, I just need to go home. So, here's the question. The question is, if we want to live in a society where robots do all of the work, we still have to figure out, then how are we going to allocate basic essentials, shelter, clothing, right? Since we're not working for our sustenance. And I think that's a really hard question, especially when, we have so many people conditioned to work and work hard, as their fulfillment, right? Because some people, if they don't put in a hard day's work, they won't be able to sleep at night. It's just the way it was, the way it is, right? Even myself, after I finished work, it was like, yeah, I'm on point with Proverbs, right? I worked hard, I can eat, right? Right? So, there we go with that, right? And it has to do with the expending, of our energy also, right? I just can't imagine a society out here doing, yoga and Tai Chi and martial arts and lifting weights and running and stuff, for 2 to 4 hours a day, and that's that. It could be. I mean, I think it would be beautiful, a beautiful place to live, for sure. And we get to eat good, and we have shelter, and transportation. What do you do about transportation, though? I mean, you can network online, but what do you do about transportation? How do you meet up? How do you go visit your family, friends, loved ones? So that's probably some of the details that they're going to have to work out. And yes, it can seem very much like a communist state. And every day, I hear more and more videos where people are being replaced, losing their jobs, laid off, and we've seen, robots that they use in California to deliver groceries and food to people. Whereas right now, until this gets worked out with robotics, we have a lot more people doing these gig works. When they lost their job, they dropped down to doing the gig work, and then as the gig works, slowly but surely get replaced with, robotics. Even transporting somebody, can be done with a vehicle that doesn't have a driver in it. I've seen it. I haven't experienced it, but I've seen it. Chelsea, she wanted the experience, and she videotaped it, and she was like, she couldn't believe that there was no driver, she was very anxious, when she got in the car, and it was like, yep, true enough, she was being driven by a car without a driver. Sure enough. So even like I said, even gig drivers, it's just really a matter of time before, they too will be replaced with a robot or a robot operated vehicle. It's just a matter of time. So So the allocation of resources is going to have to be, fair and equitable, I'm sure. And surely not everything. Well, it's going to take, surely not everything is going to be ran by robots. Surely robots aren't going to always be able to fix themselves, and yeah. So yeah, it's something to think about, for sure. I tell you, but this kind of shopping has made my life easier, for sure. Just order online and go and pick it up, or I could have had it delivered, but I didn't want to wait till tomorrow. And it costs.